here is well known and understood by Mayor McCrory. He was elected as mayor of Charlotte in 1995 and served 7 consecutive terms. So I think his qualifications as an executive are well known. This was during a period of extreme growth and prosperity for Charlotte. With that,
I'm ready.
Here he is, Mayor McCrory. Let's give him a big round.
I feel like I'm so far away from all of y'all. Good afternoon. I apologize for being a little late. I just got off a plane from Virginia, where I was with Governor McDonald in Virginia, a great governor who's doing a lot of things in education and understands clearly that we cannot afford to keep the status quo of education. A status quo in which our costs keep going up 8 to 9%. Our results are not good. We're 1 out of every 5 students right now is not graduating in the state of North Carolina. We're 60% of our students who are going to community college have to take remedial math and remedial English. A system right now where a university system in the freshman years of colleges in our universities right now, we literally have millions of dollars going toward the university system to help freshman students learn basic English and basic math before they start the 101 courses. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a system that is not successful. And it's a system which must change. And there's not even an educational factor to this system that's breaking down. There's an economic factor to this system. And that is, as I talk to employers throughout the state of North Carolina, even though North Carolina right now has the 4th highest unemployment rate in the nation. Did you know that North Carolina has the 4th highest unemployment rate in the nation? And it's continued. Unemployment statistics just came out last week. We're beating Nevada, Rhode Island, and California. That's it. And yet, as I travel across the state and meet with employers, employers tell me that they still can't find qualified young people to fill their job needs. There is no excuse for that whatsoever when we have young kids graduating from our high schools who cannot fill out a basic employment application, do not have basic reading or writing skills, or do not have the technical skills needed to perform a job. We have got to change that if we're going to beat Virginia and Tennessee and South Carolina in jobs, and guess what? We're not doing it right now. And I told Governor McDonald last night in Richmond, Virginia, when I become governor, we're going to beat you. We're going to take you down. We like competition. Now, I need to tell you a little bit about my background, and then I want to talk to you about, I think, some of the solutions. First of all, I grew up in Jamestown, North Carolina, right down the street, in the Greensboro, High Point area. I went to Ragsdale High School right across the street from Guilford Technical Institute. Any Ragsdale grads here? Yes. The most brilliant person in the room at the front left table. After graduating from Ragsdale High School, where I respected so much Mrs. Molesky and Mrs. Revels and Mrs. Lockman and Roger Chance, there are people that will stick with me forever. I went to Catawba College in Salisbury, North Carolina. And while at Catawba College, I decided I wanted to become a teacher. And my junior and senior year, I started taking teaching classes, education classes, and student taught at North Rowan High School in Salisbury. And also took the North Carolina Teachers Exam. And to the shock of my parents, I passed and became qualified to become a teacher in North Carolina. And again, my goal upon graduation was to get a teaching job, but at that point in time, the economy was doing bad. Not many teachers were being hired, and I got accepted to a management trainee program with Duke Power Company for $900 a month, and a long time ago, 1978, and I was pleased to have that job. And I took a job with Duke Power where the first 6 months I climbed poles, dug ditches, actually hooked up electric lines, Almost killed myself several times because I had no idea what I was doing. I did not have the mechanical and electrical skills needed to do that. But I also continued to learn. And I also realized I needed some training even at Duke Power Company. So Duke Power Company put me through many, many, many both technical and non-technical training courses. And it was kind of ironic because 7 years later, Duke Power Company made me the Director of Training and Development for the entire company. So in a way, I've become a teacher. And I need to let you know, 15 to 20 years ago, when I was the head of training for Duke Energy, we were already implementing long-distance technology training. We were doing that among our nuclear power plants to train our technicians, whether it be a Coney nuclear power plant, McCrory nuclear plant, or Catawba nuclear power plant. Long distance, but we realized that we could share instructors long distance. This was almost 20 years ago where we were doing that. Now, some of the video versus the audio didn't always match, but it was something we had to do, and we knew we had to do it. Let me tell you something else we did. We adjusted the curriculum every year. In fact, sometimes we adjusted the curriculum every month based upon the market needs of what the employers and management team needed. We were never satisfied with the curriculum because our goal was to meet the needs of the company to keep our employees employed and productive and remain high-quality work. So the Director of Training never just sat on, oh, well, we've always done it that way, and this is our budget, and by the way, we need more money, because the bosses will always say, you aren't getting any more money. You have to live within what we give you, and you're going to have to look for better ways to teach, and you're going to always have to have better results. This was 15 to 20 years ago in the private sector. Well, I firmly believe in education that we ought to have the same sort of demands on education. And I've recommended a K-12 strategy already as your next governor, and we're about to recommend a university strategy in the near future. But let me talk about some of the strategies that we talked about. The number one strategy was choice. I firmly believe that the more choice our children have in education, the more competitive education will become, and the higher the quality of education will become for our students. I believe that in the private sector, I believe that in the public sector. And charter schools is a major ingredient of that choice. And I think there's a lot of misinformation about charter schools that we have to do a better job in communicating. First of all, I bet you 98% of the public believes that charter schools are private schools and not a part of the public school system. Would you agree with me on that? We have got to do a better job of educating the public on what charter schools are, and they are public schools. And they are not competing against public schools, they complement public schools and the traditional school system. They do not take away money from public schools. They help public schools and actually provide education for a cheaper price to the taxpayers, which in turn should lower the cost for other schools in the system. We have to do a better job of educating the public on this fact. Do you agree with that? Yes. I love your reaction here. So, a big challenge with you and with me as the next governor is to first do some basic education to the public. Educate the public that charter schools are public schools. Whether they're non-profit or for-profit, they are still public schools. The second thing we have to educate the public on is this: they do not take away money from our kids. And that's what we need to educate is our kids. So I think that's the first job of the governor. I am so pleased, and I'd like to tell you that I participated and helped this from an outsider point of view, that the cap was finally lifted for charter schools in North Carolina. And we waited far too long. I congratulate our Speaker and our President of the Senate who made this happen. And yet there are forces blocking this year after year after year. And one of those forces, by the way, was my opponent in this election. and the existing governor. They finally relented, but it was relenting far too late. As long as we have kids on a waiting list having to basically gamble, it's a lottery. As long as we have kids on a lottery and not getting into schools of their choice, we've got to do a better job. And I think there's a transition period that we're going through right now in the charter school movement, now that the cap has been lifted, where the governor is going to have to play a crucial role. And that role includes this, is we're going to have to speed up the process, for one, in making sure we certify the public schools and quit waiting so long to do it. We have to have a good process, a transparent process, and a non-political process in place. If we start politicizing this process will not be successful. And by the way, we shouldn't politicize any type of schools. We need to take out the politics and look for results. This is about our kids. The second thing we need to do is, in addition to looking at the process and speeding up that process, is we need to look at the whole makeup of the boards and how we assign these boards in the long term in making these decisions. And there are some very difficult decisions regarding, are there conflicts of interest on the boards? Are there not conflicts of interest on the board? Is it an open process? Is it a transparent process? Are there certain regulations that are needed for this type of charter school versus another charter school? We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we need to know exactly what the rules are. We shouldn't make up the rules during the process. And that's what we're doing right now. We're going through some growing pains. And that's inexcusable. We need to move quickly. And you know what I did as a mayor? I borrowed and stole other ideas from other states and other cities. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to call upon, including the governor of Virginia, and said, how did you do it? What worked and what didn't work? Steal what works and improve upon what didn't work. We don't need to create all these new committees. There is an urgency because kids are on a waiting list right now and going through a lottery with their life. I don't like lotteries. I don't like gambling. And right now we're gambling with second, and third, and fourth, and fifth graders, and some of them are leaving having lost the lottery and going home crying and going, I'm not going to the school of my choice. And that's not right. That is not right. And we're going to improve upon that next year. So there are improvements that we need to make in the whole system now that the cap has been lifted. And there are some important issues coming up, especially as technology enters into the equation. And I know even in this area with a virtual school and things of this nature, I have an issue with this. Whatever we're doing right now is not being done at the success that needs to be accomplished. I am open to every and any idea to help our kids. And let's try them out and let's measure the results. Our education system during the last 20 years, and especially during the last 5 years under the Purdue administration, has been all about the budget. Ladies and gentlemen, education is not about the budgets, it's about the results. And that's the way we're going to start thinking. And if you show results, you get rewarded. If you don't show results, you do not get rewarded. And right now, part of our system basically is the schools that don't show results, sometimes we pour more money into the system as opposed to changing the system. That is not productive. We're going to change the culture of education for our kids. And the first thing we're going to change is you first create the vision for education, then you create the strategy to get there, then you determine the money it takes to get there. Not the other way around. Right now, the whole debate in North Carolina education is it's been about the budget. And then we'll determine the results and the strategy. I think that's backwards. Whether you deal with education or whether you're dealing with transportation. As mayor of Charlotte, I first presented the transportation vision, and then I developed the strategy. Then I figured out how much it was going to cost. Then I figured out how much money we might have, and I might have to cut some things, but we didn't do it the other way around. We're going to change this philosophy of thinking in North Carolina. I'll tell you another thing I'm going to combat, and that is this. where some people are arguing right now that this group of people are for education and this group of people are against education. I've never met anyone who's against education. Have you ever met anyone who's against education? Except for the kid who doesn't want to do his homework? I don't know of anyone who is opposed to education. And for any politician to say this group of political people or this political party is against education, to me, is just detrimental. And it's against our type of free speech. Because just because you're saying the current system doesn't work and we're not going to pour more money into it until we fix it, doesn't mean you're against education. In fact, if anything, it means you're for the kids, and you want them to get a job when they graduate as opposed to moving in with their parents when they graduate. We're going to change this culture. I'm going to invite the people from the charter school community. I'm going to invite people from the homeschool community. I'm going to invite people from the private school community. I'm going to invite people from the traditional public school community to say, we're going to work together. We are not going to create separate silos for each one. We're going to complement each other and work together as a team. Because it's all about the kids. It's not about you. It's about the kids. Let me tell you another thing I hope to work on as governor, is that currently right now, our K-12 system is in a silo with their own lobbyists. Within that silo, by the way, we have the charter school lobbyists, we have the homeschool lobbyists, we have the public school lobbyists, we have the private school lobbyists. Even within that silo, we have all these divisions. Then we have the community college silo, where every community college seems to have their own lobbyist and representative and all their own boards, lobbying on behalf of their needs and their cause. And then we have the university lobbyists. We have the board of governors, we have every board on every university. We have people lobbying me and legislators from all these different angles. Silo, 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 and within each silos, many, many silos. We can't afford it anymore. I've got a rude message for you. There is no new money. We owe the federal government right now $2.8 billion. That's a B. That's adult money. $2.8 billion the state of North Carolina owes the federal government for unemployment compensation. So any politician who tells you that we have a balanced budget, ask them about that $2.8 billion that we owe. And that's not including the unfunded liability of current, retired, and current state employees' health insurance, which is unfunded as we speak in future years. That doesn't include possible problems with the actuaries of the state pension program. We're going to have to deal with this debt. We're going to have to deal with this financial accounting that's occurred in the state of North Carolina for the past decade. There is no new money. So we're going to have to work and cut down these silos. Look for duplication. Look for efficient strategies. Look for teamwork. And recognize that it's not about the silos. It's about the results. It's about the process. It's about the strategy. And we're going to come up with a process and strategy of results in North Carolina education, which is going to compete more against Tennessee and Virginia and South Carolina, our neighbors, which is going to compete against Ohio and Indiana and Georgia and Florida, which is going to compete against Singapore and Frankfurt and China. Because that's our competition, now and in the future. And right now, the United States and the state of North Carolina is not winning that competition. We have to win that competition. And the charter school movement will be one part of that competition and that strategy. And I'm going to need your ideas. I'm going to need to make sure y'all don't have too many silos within your own movement. And recognize even within the charter school movement, it's still about the kids. It's not about you. Don't fall in the same trap that other educators have done. I know that's not happening. But it will, because it's a natural human dynamic. But we can't afford it anymore. We cannot afford it anymore. This is the North Carolina vision for the future, where every child has a good education, can read and write and do the basics first, can learn the skills necessary to get a good job, and who can then get a job and start a family, buy a home, and start the process over again and have the great quality of life that many of us have had in North Carolina for the past several decades. It starts with education, but it doesn't start with the education process that we've been enacting for the past 10 years. It's got to change. The competitive world demands change, and I'm going to need your help with that change, and then we're going to have proven results. Thank you, and God bless each one of you. Have a safe trip home, too.
You want to take any questions? I'd be glad to if you like.
Mayor McCrory said he'd be happy to take any questions you might have, so
Since he didn't give me time to get my speech out of my pocket before I spoke, I might as well take questions. So, are there any questions or comments? I know y'all been here all day. Any questions or comments or feedback? I welcome them. Yes, ma'am.
Upon achieving good recognition, how would you propose addressing the role of DPI and individuals serving on that?
I couldn't hear the role of...
DPI.
No acronyms allowed with me, by the way.
Board of Education,
Yeah.
Board, and DPI.
Well, one of the first things we need to do, I think, in the state of North Carolina is this. There's no accountability for education in state government right now. No one knows who's in charge. And, you know, we have the elected superintendent, we have the governor then appoints someone over the board, we have all our different boards that are appointed by all different organizations from all over the place. I'm going to look at changing the whole organizational structure of education at the state level. I personally think the governor ought to be the one appointing the superintendent of education and it not be an elected position. Because first of all, the governor is going to get the credit or blame for education regardless. We've got to know who's responsible for education. Now, I'm supporting the current process. In fact, I'm supporting the current candidate for superintendent of education coming from my party, and I think it'll be good coming from Wake County. But in the long run, I think it makes no sense to have that deal. The governor needs to be accountable for education. Right now, when you go talk to superintendents, across the school system, they basically are saying the state's really not relevant except for the budget, and maybe then for the schedule, and then maybe for holding up charter schools. So what is the real role of the state, and where's the accountability? And those lines of authority have got to be clearly redefined at this point in time. I believe in accountability, and it's hard to measure results if there's no one accountable for the results. And right now, everyone can just defer it to someone else in the process. And this is true at the university, 2-year, and K through 12 level. And I will demand the same results from charter schools, by the way. Exactly the same results. There will be no bias or favoritism for any group, because it's about the kids. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, what about...
Except from you.
your thoughts on technical high school?
Well, again, I've stated for the record that I believe we ought to have a vocational curriculum and a 4-year college curriculum. You know, I ran into a Moore County teacher one night walking the streets after I needed a walk, and I was walking in Moore County in one of the towns, and a guy came up to me in a guitar case and a leather hat and long hair, and he said, "Are you Pat McCrory?" And I was debating whether to answer that or not. I had to do that as mayor often. I put my fist up before I answered the question. And I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "Well, I'm a vocational teacher in Moore County, and I teach bricklaying." And the problem we have is I have some excellent bricklayers who are craftsmen and have incredible skills. But then we make that guy with incredible skills, which I don't have. My wife reminds me of this constantly. Go take a classic English course, which he flunks out of. Then he flunks out of school. He says, we're losing some talent here because we're trying to pigeonhole everyone into a system. And I still think everyone ought to have the basics and a well-rounded education. But I think we've squeezed in certain parts of the curriculum to satisfy the educators as opposed to satisfying the market. And employers are telling me right now they can't even find technicians. If you become a qualified welder right now, you can make some big money. There are some six-figure welding jobs in this state that are open. You go to some of the engineering companies right down the street, West Sands Boulevard, they're looking for technicians right now. They're begging for 23 and 24 and 25-year-olds to take place of the men, primarily men who are retiring at the age of 60, 65, and 70. They can't replace them right now. The market needs them and those kids need them. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for people who have vocational skills. And we ought to treat them as such. It's not a second-class citizen. It's not a second-tier level of education. I hope there are some charter school technical skills that are developed. The dilemma is it's more expensive. But I want to reward even the community colleges. Used to be called technical colleges. They're now called community colleges. Our system doesn't really reward technical training as much as it should because we pay based upon volume. The whole payment structure of how we feed money out is based upon the number of students you have versus what the results are the learning. I'll conclude by telling you this story. I love telling this 4 years ago. My wife and I were putting new wood floors in our house. And the guy was working his tail off. It was one of those hot summer days like we have today and yesterday. And working his tail off. He started at 7, finished at 7 o'clock at night. And you know, I don't know how they do it. You know how they fit the wood in and somehow it all ends up right in the room. I haven't figured it out. It's incredible skill. And just working his tail off. Well, he finished. I came up to him being the little college preppy guy. And I said, hey, let me take you to dinner. Let me get you some dinner. Because he was soaking wet. He said, Mayor Pat, I'd love to take you to dinner, but I'm actually going to go eat at my house in Lake Norman. God bless him. He deserved every penny of it. I have no problem with him making more than lawyers. He has a skill that should be respected, and it's a skill that our market needs. And I hope the charter school movement remembers that too. God bless each one of you. Thank you.
A couple of housekeeping items here before we conclude this great conference. First, I wanted to announce that we have set the date for the conference next year. This really wasn't a date of our choosing. We think that the conference should be during the school year. And we've set the date as Friday, the 22nd of March, 2013. That's on a Friday. That will be an all-day session, so you come in Thursday night on the 21st. And it'll be all-day Friday and half-day Saturday. We hope we're announcing this early enough so that schools can set that Friday, the 22nd of March, as a teacher work day or in-service training day, and we can deflect some of that with the conference. The second announcement is that the Alliance is on a fiscal year from the 1st of July through June 30. So we got a little behind planning for this conference. Got a little busy, didn't get our newsletters out, but you may rejoice in the fact that you may have a newsletter in your mailbox when you return to your school, and we would appreciate if you're responding to those. Our main goals here are to promote choice, seek equal funding for charter schools. We don't want to sit still for having second-class students. They need to be funded equally to the other schools. And we want equal accountability. If you're going to shut a charter school down, well, shut the traditional school down that's not scoring as well. And we want equal criteria for getting a charter. We don't want to favor one group over another group or change the rules, as Mayor McCrory was saying earlier, in the middle of the game. We want a concrete set of understandable standards that people who want to open a charter school can apply for. And finally, unfettered choices in your charter school. We're supposed to be free of all these regulations, and they keep piling them on. And every time you turn around, they've come up with a new policy or new thing we're supposed to do. And we want to tamp that down as best we can. So with that, and I want to thank the other members of the board of the Alliance. If you'd stand up, Les Mary, Brandon, Dave, Vice Chairman. Our past chairman, Paul Wonderall, to hand over the title, taking With that, I'll turn it over to our chairman, Dr. Robert Landry, for the concluding remarks and what do we got? We got the back book. Good. Thank you very much.
Should we change a little bit because we know that people are starting to get, and they got to get going, instead of waiting until after you eat. I want to say, when we started Sunday, how many were here Sunday evening? You're still here. Hallelujah. Sunday when we came in, there was a great synergy that was taking place here. I was excited and my wife was excited what we saw when we came to the rotunda, and we saw you engaging with each other and collaborating and talking and taking time. And that's what the charter movement needs. It needs you together. It needs to be a glue that is togetherness. And then we went from there, and then Monday we started, and we couldn't wait really to get into Monday because of Sunday evening. Everybody wanted to start Monday. I know I was here early, and others were walking around the place we were trying to get in here. We could not get in, it was locked. But once we started yesterday morning, we did not stop. I mean, if you think about it, we had Bill Harrison, and we went to Kate Walsh and the presentation she made, and she actually told us, Pat, Mayor, she told us how bad we were. She flat called it out and says that you are in bad shape here in North Carolina. And talk about teacher. And from there we went forward and we had the breakout sessions. We had the debate that took place with Senator Lee moderating. And the day progressed and we had more. And then we had Tillis here last night. And then we had the robotic team. And then we moved again, and there we are again today here. And it hasn't stopped today. And we learned from the media people things that we need to do to better get the word out. We had a session today on transparency. In other words, it was a question and answer. And I'll be honest with you, it was great for us on the board because we thought we were in one foxhole. We found out we were in multiple foxholes because the perception out there is one thing that the board and others knew about. And so I just want to say thank you for those of you who participated in that session. I want to say that we know we have the mayor here, but I want to let you know that I also invited Walter Dalton to come here. And he had 2 days to come, and he could not come either day. So what they said was that he will not be able to make it to this conference. So in fairness to all parties, we invited all parties here. Baker has already told you about the dates coming up in March. We also have unveiling new programs. I want to talk to you just briefly, just let you know about the PEP programs. Please look at that, see how we can help you with that, because we want to get you involved in partnership with us in terms of board training and board collaboration and engagement at the regional level. We want to start the cohorts sessions for both administrators and for teachers, so that can make a big, tight, and web difference. We're going to get very active involved in that, and you'll hear more about that from Frank and Brad as they get out information, because we want to come to you. The other thing is we want you to think about becoming a director. We're serious about that. as you know, we do this pro bono. We want you to come and join us pro bono. Okay? And you may say, not really, but yes, it is exciting to get involved in this. But in all reality, we need your voice to be at the board of directors. We can't do it alone. And so we thank you for that. At this time, basically when I hush up, I just want to say I wish each and every one of you safe travels, Godspeed. And it's been great getting to be with you, getting to know you. We had vendors and others out here. Where are you? Are you in here with us? I knew we were, because we're glad to have you, and thank you for all that you've done for us here. Thank you. So this time we're going to pull out the last prize that we have here, correct?
Okay, this is the big prize, and this goes to vendor bingo. And if you don't know what the vendor bingo is, people went around and went to every single booth. And we again want to thank all of our vendors that came to the conference. We want to thank everybody that joined in, and we're going to draw this now. And I'm going to wait for Dr. Landry to come back up here because I'm going to let him draw. Pick a card, any card.
Every card. Or did he say every card?
Okay, and the winner for the MacBook Air is Cindy Austin. Congratulations, Cindy. Congratulations, Cindy.
We're going to make you come up. Because I know Mason wants to take a picture, so come on up. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you all for coming.